The holographic spire on Argos Prime gleamed in the amber light of twin setting suns, its crystalline facets refracting cosmic rays into prismatic patterns across the Grand Assembly Hall. Inside, 57 species representing the Galactic Council convened for what should have been a routine session. Ambassador Marcus Reed shifted uncomfortably in his seat, designed for a physiology far different from human dimensions. After 50 years of such discomfort, both physical and diplomatic, he had grown accustomed to the constant reminder of humanity's afterthought status. "The Council recognizes the delegation from Crystalia," announced Prime Speaker Voxith, a towering crystalline being whose translucent body shimmered with internal light patterns that served as both language and emotional display. Reed exchanged a knowing glance with Colonel Elena Ortiz, the Terran Federation's military attaché. They had prepared extensive briefings on Void Reaper movements along the Meridian trade route. But once again, their reports had been relegated to miscellaneous concerns at the session's end, if time permitted. Crystallian research suggests the silicon-based anomalies affecting our outer colonies require immediate attention, vibrated the Crystallian delegate, pulses of crimson anxiety flaring through their latticed form. "Our scientists believe the molecular patterns indicate early-stage Void Reaper biological infiltration." Beside Reed, Colonel Ortiz tightened her grip on her datapad. She had submitted precisely this warning 3 months earlier, complete with genetic sequencing that matched previous Void Reaper biological weapons. Her report had been dismissed as overly alarmist human conjecture. "The Council acknowledges Crystalia's concerns," Voxith resonated formally. "We shall commission a study committee to evaluate potential origins of the silicon anomalies." Speaker Voxith," Reed interrupted, knowing full well he was breaching protocol. "Colonel Ortiz submitted comprehensive analysis of these exact patterns 94 days ago. Our scientific division predicted this spread and recommended immediate quarantine protocols." The assembly hall fell momentarily silent before erupting in a cacophony of communication. Melodic chimes from the Harmonic Collective, bioluminescent pulses from the Abyssal Federation, and electromagnetic bursts from the Nebula Consciousness. Voxith's crystalline body darkened perceptibly. "The Terran contingent forgets itself." Voxith's voice resonated with unmistakable condescension. "Humanity has served as junior partners to the Council for barely half a century, a mere moment in cosmic governance. Your species' propensity for alarmist reactions is well documented. True scientific rigor requires patience beyond human comprehension." Colonel Ortiz's knuckles whitened around her datapad. In the 5 decades since humanity had joined the Council, such dismissals had become routine. Human technological innovations were labeled simplistic, military strategies deemed primitive, and scientific breakthroughs dismissed as lucky accidents. All while human ships patrolled the most dangerous sectors. Human scientists tackled the most virulent plagues, and human diplomats mediated the most volatile conflicts. "I ask the Council's indulgence," came the vaporous voice of Counselor Zihara, a gas-based entity contained within an ornate mobile chamber. "We must remember that younger species often mistake correlation for causation. Violence and confrontation are never justified responses, regardless of perceived threats. The Council's wisdom lies in measured contemplation." Reed felt the familiar ache of restraint, the diplomat's burden of swallowing insults for the greater good. For 50 years, he had endured this patronizing treatment, believing that patience would eventually earn humanity the respect it deserved. 50 years of condescension disguised as mentorship. 50 years of human sacrifice met with alien disdain. Prime Speaker. Voxith's crystalline form pulsed with what Reed recognized as smugness. "The Council appreciates Terran enthusiasm, but we must consider a broader perspective. It may be prudent to discuss humanity's readiness for continued Council participation." Perhaps another millennium of observation before assuming greater responsibilities would benefit all parties. The chamber hummed with alien approval. Something in Reed snapped. A diplomatic cable stretched too thin for too long, finally breaking under accumulated tension. "Colonel Ortiz," he said quietly, his voice carrying unexpected weight in the suddenly attentive chamber. "Please initiate Protocol Omega." Ortiz's eyes widened momentarily before her expression hardened into military resolve. She tapped a rapid sequence into her comm unit. Throughout Council space, on dozens of human vessels, alert signals began pulsing. Reed stood, his movement drawing surprised attention from the assembled delegates. Humans rarely stood during Council proceedings, a sign of aggression, according to the protocols established by elder species. "Prime Speaker, honorable delegates." Reed's voice carried none of his customary deference. "For 50 years, humanity has served this council with dignity, resourcefulness, and sacrifice. We have patrolled your most dangerous borders, researched your most lethal plagues, and died defending your most vulnerable colonies. In return, we have received nothing but condescension and dismissal." Voxith's crystalline body flashed warning patterns. "Ambassador Reed, this outburst is inappropriate." "I am not finished," Reed cut in, shocking the assembly into silence. No junior species had ever interrupted a prime speaker. "As of this moment, by authority vested in me by the Terran Federation, I am severing all diplomatic ties with the Galactic Council. All human ships are withdrawing from Council patrols. All human scientists are abandoning Council research projects. All human peacekeepers are returning to Terran space." The chamber erupted in cacophony. Some delegates emitted high-pitched melodic warnings. Others flashed bioluminescent signals of outrage, while gaseous representatives swirled in agitated patterns within their containment fields. "You cannot simply withdraw," Voxith's voice boomed above the din, inner lights pulsing chaotically. "Council membership entails obligations. Obligations we have fulfilled for 5 decades, while receiving nothing but contempt in return." Reed replied evenly. "The Terran Federation no longer recognizes Council authority. We are withdrawing all personnel and resources. You have precisely 1 Galactic Standard month to remove your diplomats and property from human space." "This is madness," gasped Councillor Zahara, vapor tendrils whipping frantically within her chamber. "Without Council protection, humanity will face isolation, economic collapse, perhaps worse." Reed's smile held no warmth. "I believe you have that backwards, Counselor. It is the Council that has relied on human protection all these years, though you've been too proud to acknowledge it." He straightened his uniform. "Colonel Ortiz, let's join our people. I believe we're done here." As the human delegation rose in unison and moved toward the chamber exit, desperate calls and threats echoed behind them. The Crystallian delegate pulsed frantic patterns about their vulnerable colonies. The Harmonic Collective chimed ominous predictions of Void Reaper incursions. The Abyssal Federation's ambassador unleashed a stream of bioluminescent threats. Reed did not look back. He had spent 50 years looking back, hoping for recognition that never came. Now, he was looking forward, to a future where humanity charted its own course among the stars. The Terran delegation's shuttlecraft cut through Argos Prime's upper atmosphere, leaving the holographic spire diminishing behind them. Colonel Ortiz sat beside Reed, her military posture perfectly maintained despite the turbulence. "Protocol Omega is progressing smoothly. Ambassador," she reported, reviewing incoming data on her tactical display. "All human vessels are disengaging from joint patrols. Research teams are securing their findings and boarding evacuation transports. Admiral Kimura reports the TFS Resolve and the Third Fleet have already cleared the Kepler checkpoint." Reed nodded, feeling both liberation and apprehension. "And President Rao?" "Fully briefed and supportive," Ortiz confirmed. "She's addressing the Terran Federation Assembly in 1 hour to formalize our withdrawal. Her message is clear. No more council business. Protect human space first. As their shuttle docked with the TFS Dauntless, Reed watched the gleaming vessels of the human fleet disengaging from their alien counterparts. For the first time in 5 decades, humanity was acting entirely in its own interest. The question that haunted him now was how quickly the Council would realize what they had lost, and how desperate they would become to regain it. Admiral Sola Kimura stood on the command deck of the TFS Resolve, watching the tactical display as human vessels systematically withdrew from their patrol routes. Her flagship, a massive dreadnought that had served as the backbone of Council defense for 15 years, now led the exodus of human forces from Council space. "Admiral," her executive officer reported, "the Abyssal Federation is requesting emergency assistance. Their supply convoy in the Meridian sector reports Void Reaper scout ships in the vicinity." Kimura's expression remained impassive, though her hands tightened imperceptibly behind her back. "Inform them that per Protocol Omega, we are no longer authorized to respond to Council distress calls. Suggest they contact Council Defense Command." The officer hesitated. "Admiral, Council Defense Command has no assets in that sector. We both know that." "I'm aware, Commander," Kimura replied, her voice tight. "Those are our orders. The Abyssal Federation has consistently voted against human security proposals for the past 15 years. Perhaps this will prove educational." As the Resolve and its escort ships accelerated away from the Meridian trade route, Kimura allowed herself a moment of private regret for the innocent lives potentially at risk. But 50 years of being treated as expendable muscle, while alien diplomats sneered at human tactics, had exhausted her patience. Sometimes, harsh lessons were the only ones that stuck. "New heading, Admiral?" her navigation officer inquired. Kimura's gaze fixed on the star map displaying Terran space, a modest collection of systems compared to the vast territories of Elder Council species, but home nonetheless. "Set course for Sol," she ordered. "It's time we focused on protecting our own." On Earth, President Anika Rao stood before the assembled representatives of the Terran Federation, her olive complexion illuminated by the chamber's lights. Behind her, a massive display showed human ships returning to formation around key Terran installations. "For 50 years," she addressed the somber gathering, "humanity has extended its hand in friendship to the galactic community. We have offered our ingenuity, our courage, and our compassion. In return, we have been treated as children at the adults' table, tolerated but not respected, heard but not listened to." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Every representative had heard complaints from constituents whose innovations had been dismissed by council authorities, whose warnings had gone unheeded, whose sacrifices had been taken for granted. Today, Ambassador Reed has taken the unprecedented step of severing our ties with the Galactic Council. Rao continued. "This was not a decision made lightly, nor was it made in anger, though we have ample reason for both. It was made because respect cannot be earned from those who are determined not to give it." She gestured to the tactical display, where red indicators showed vulnerable council sectors, now bereft of human protection. "We anticipate the Council will soon face crises they have long been insulated from by human efforts. When they come begging for our return, and they will, we must be prepared to negotiate from a position of strength." In the back of the chamber, General Marcus Lin and Dr. Selena Huang exchanged knowing glances. As Earth's foremost military strategist and leading xenobiological researcher respectively, they understood better than most how dependent the Council had become on human expertise. "Our terms will be simple," Rao declared. "Equal voting rights on all Council matters, command authority in combined defense operations, and formal acknowledgement of 50 years of human contribution and sacrifice. Nothing less will be acceptable." The assembly erupted in approval. After decades of second-class status, the prospect of finally demanding respect resonated deeply with the human psyche. As the session concluded, Rao summoned Lin and Huang to her private office. The president's expression turned grave once the doors sealed behind them. "The public message is confidence and resolve," she told them quietly. "But I need your honest assessment. How bad will it get for them without us?" General Lin's weathered face remained impassive. "The Void Reapers have been probing Council defenses for months. Without our early warning systems and rapid response teams, I estimate major incursions within 2 weeks. Civilian casualties will be significant." Dr. Huang nodded in agreement, her slender fingers adjusting her glasses. "The silicon-based plague affecting crystalline worlds is already more advanced than they realize. Without our research team's gene-splicing protocols, Crystallia will lose entire colony clusters within days." She hesitated. "Madam President, millions of sapient beings could die while the Council comes to terms with their dependence on us." Rao turned to gaze out at the Washington skyline, the weight of her decision evident in the set of her shoulders. "Then, we must be prepared to render conditional assistance when they inevitably request it. Not as subordinates, but as equals. The galaxy must learn that human compassion should not be mistaken for weakness." Within 3 days of human withdrawal, the first desperate calls began to reach Terran space. The Meridian trade route, once the safest commercial corridor in the galaxy, thanks to human patrol vessels, descended into chaos as pirate squads ravaged unprotected convoys. The crystalline worlds reported accelerating infection rates, their populations literally cracking and shattering as the silicon-based plague ravaged their lattice structures. Most ominously, Void Reaper scout ships appeared in previously secure sectors, their black biomechanical forms testing Council defenses and finding them woefully inadequate. In the holographic spire on Argos Prime, emergency sessions ran continuously. Prime Speaker Voxith's once brilliant crystalline form had dimmed noticeably, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "The humans cannot simply abandon their responsibilities," insisted a representative from the Harmonic Collective, their melodic speech patterns discordant with anxiety. "There are established protocols for withdrawal from Council affiliations." "Protocols they followed to the letter," countered an elder from the Nebula consciousness, electromagnetic pulses sharp with annoyance. "They filed every required document. They provided the standard notification period. They did everything properly, which is precisely what makes this so infuriating. They found a legitimate way to leave us vulnerable." Councillor Zahara's gaseous form swirled agitatedly in her containment field. "Violence and confrontation are never the answer. We must appeal to humanity's better nature. Surely, they would not allow innocent beings to suffer. Their better nature has been ignored and insulted for half a century." Voxith admitted, inner lights pulsing with reluctant realization. "We have systematically dismissed their warnings, belittled their achievements, and marginalized their contributions. Now we face the consequences of our arrogance." Across the chamber, urgent communications interrupted the debate. The Crystallian delegates' form pulsed with horror as they received news from their homeworld. The central lattice hubs of 3 colony clusters have shattered. Millions of consciousness fragments are dissipating. Without immediate intervention, the plague will reach our core worlds within days. Similar reports flooded in from across Council space. The Abyssal Federation had lost contact with 2 deep ocean colonies. The Harmonic Collective reported Void Reaper scout ships approaching their nursery worlds, where new consciousnesses were gestating in vulnerable harmonic fields. Voxith's crystalline form darkened further as he addressed the panicked assembly. "It appears we have no choice. We must formally request human assistance." "On what terms?" demanded the Nebula Elder. "They will not return to their previous status." "On whatever terms they require," Voxith replied grimly. "The alternative is extinction." Aboard the TFS Resolve, Admiral Kimura received the Council's formal request with a grim satisfaction. The message had been transmitted on all frequencies, an unprecedented admission of desperation from a body that had long prided itself on self-sufficiency. They're requesting immediate deployment of human forces to 9 critical sectors, her communications officer reported. The language is surprisingly humble. Kimura nodded. Forward it to President Rao. This is a political decision now. In her office in Washington, President Rao studied the Council's plea with General Lin and Dr. Huang. The request acknowledged significant contributions of human ingenuity and essential human security operations, phrases that would have been unthinkable days earlier. They're desperate, Lin observed. The Void Reaper incursions must be worse than our intelligence suggested. Dr. Huang nodded, examining data transmitted from crystalline worlds. The Silicon Plague has reached Stage 4 mutation, far more aggressive than anticipated. Without immediate intervention, entire species face extinction. Rao's expression remained resolute. Then we respond with humanity's terms. Not out of cruelty, but because this cycle cannot continue. The galaxy's survival depends on mutual respect, not condescension. She dictated a formal response, transmitted on the same all-frequency broadcast the Council had used. Full human command of combined defense operations, equal voting status on all Council matters, and public acknowledgement of 50 years of human contribution. The message concluded with a simple truth. These terms are non-negotiable. The choice between pride and survival now rests with the Council. The waiting game had begun. Rao knew that every hour of delay meant more lives lost, more systems compromised. But she also knew that without this reckoning, nothing would change. Sometimes, compassion required difficult choices. 26 hours later, as reports of Void Reaper fleets advancing on heavily populated Council worlds reached critical levels, Voxith personally transmitted the Council's acceptance of all human terms. His once brilliant form now barely glimmered, drained by stress and the spreading Silicon Plague that had begun affecting even his homeworld. The Council accepts humanity's conditions without reservation. The Prime Speaker's message stated, "We acknowledge our error in failing to recognize human contributions and wisdom. Please, help us." Within minutes, President Rao authorized Operation Unified Shield. Across human space, military vessels that had been strategically positioned for rapid response leapt into action. Admiral Kimura's flagship led the armada, accompanied by research vessels carrying Dr. Huang's scientific teams. As human forces arrived in besieged Council sectors, the full extent of the crisis became apparent. Void Reaper vessels had established footholds in 7 major systems. The Silicon Plague had spread to 14 crystalline worlds. Pirate enclaves, emboldened by the absence of human patrols, had seized control of vital trade junctions. On the command deck of the TFS Resolve, Admiral Kimura coordinated the combined human-alien response. For the first time, alien vessels operated under direct human command, a reversal that many alien captains clearly found uncomfortable. "Abyssal Federation ships, maintain formation," Kimura ordered, as they approached the massive Void Reaper armada near the Kepler expanse. "Your resonance cannons will be ineffective until we've neutralized their adaptive shields. Follow the attack pattern precisely." The ensuing battle tested the new command structure to its limits. Void Reaper vessels, biomechanical horrors that absorbed and adapted to conventional weapons, had expected the disorganized response typical of Council forces. Instead, they encountered human tactical algorithms coordinating with alien energy resonance technologies in ways they couldn't predict. Dr. Huang, monitoring the battle from her laboratory on the research vessel TFS Discovery, activated the experimental shield disruptor she'd developed during years of studying Void Reaper technology, research the Council had consistently dismissed as reckless and primitive. "Admiral," she communicated to Kimura, "the disruptor is online. The Reaper's adaptive matrices should be vulnerable for approximately 8 minutes before they recalibrate." "Understood," Kimura responded. All ships. This is Admiral Kimura. Commence Operation Breakthrough. Target coordinates are being transmitted now. Hit them with everything you've got. The combined armada unleashed a devastating barrage. Human kinetic weapons hammered the temporarily vulnerable Void Reaper vessels, while alien energy weapons targeted the exposed organic components. For the first time in recorded history, Void Reaper ships began to disintegrate faster than they could regenerate. The tide had turned. As the battle for the Kepler Expanse reached its climax, President Rao addressed a joint session of the Terran Federation Assembly and Council representatives. The latter attended via holographic projection. Their various forms, crystalline, gaseous, bioluminescent, electromagnetic, displayed with equal prominence alongside human delegates. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, Rao declared. Not merely because we face a common enemy, but because we finally do so as equals. The Galactic Council has acknowledged humanity's rightful place among the stars. In return, humanity reaffirms its commitment to the protection and prosperity of all sentient species. She gestured to the tactical displays, showing the Void Reaper fleet in retreat. Operation Unified Shield demonstrates what we can accomplish together when pride gives way to partnership. This victory belongs to all of us. Human tactical ingenuity combined with the unique capabilities of each Council species. The Assembly erupted in approval, human voices joined by melodic chimes, bioluminescent pulses, and electromagnetic signals of agreement. For the first time, the response felt genuine rather than condescending. As the weeks passed, the combined forces liberated besieged systems, one by one. Dr. Huang's research team developed a counter-agent for the Silicon Plague, saving billions of crystalline lives. Human-alien joint operations eliminated pirate strongholds and secured trade routes. The Council, true to its agreement, restructured its charter to grant humans equal voting power and representation in all committees. Chancellor Voxith, his crystalline form gradually regaining its brilliance after treatment with Huang's counteragent, personally oversaw the reforms. On Earth, Ambassador Reed found himself in the unfamiliar position of being courted by alien diplomats. Species that had once dismissed human insights now sought human counsel. Proposals that would have been ignored months earlier received serious consideration. "How does it feel?" Colonel Ortiz asked him as they watched alien representatives filing into the newly constructed Terran embassy, an architectural marvel that incorporated design elements from all Council species alongside distinctly human aesthetics. Reed considered the question. "Bittersweet," he admitted. "I'm gratified that humanity finally has the respect it deserves. But I can't help wondering how many lives could have been saved if the Council had listened to us years ago." "Some lessons can only be learned the hard way," Ortiz replied pragmatically. "The important thing is that they've learned it now." Inside the embassy's Grand Hall, President Rao formalized the establishment of the Galactic Alliance, the successor to the Council, built on principles of equal partnership rather than hierarchical condescension. Human delegates sat side by side with alien representatives in the circular chamber, symbolic of their equal status. "Let us move forward together," Rao proclaimed, "with the wisdom born of hard experience. We are stronger united than divided, but true unity can only exist between equals. The galaxy faces challenges that no single species can overcome alone. Together, there is no limit to what we can achieve." As the assembled delegates, human and alien alike, signaled their approval, Dr. Huang watched from the sidelines with cautious optimism. Her research team had been tasked with studying remnants of Void Reaper technology, seeking insights that might prevent future incursions. For the first time, her methodologies weren't being second-guessed by Council overseers. "Do you think it will last?" she asked General Lin, who stood beside her observing the proceedings with military stoicism. Lin's weathered features softened slightly. "Nothing lasts forever, Doctor. But relationships built on mutual respect have a better foundation than those built on tolerance and condescension. He nodded toward where Ambassador Reed was engaged in earnest conversation with Voxith. We've earned their respect. Now we have to keep it. 6 months after the crisis, the galaxy had settled into a new equilibrium. The Galactic Alliance, with humans in co-chair positions on defense and research councils, had proven more effective than its predecessor at addressing interstellar threats. Trade flourished along routes now secured by joint human-alien patrols. Scientific breakthroughs multiplied as researchers from diverse species collaborated without hierarchical constraints. On a crystalline world that had nearly fallen to the Silicon Plague, Ambassador Reed addressed a holographic audience of diverse alien youth, the next generation who would inherit this transformed galaxy. Their varied forms, shimmering crystal structures, swirling gas configurations, bioluminescent patterns, electromagnetic pulses, reminded him of how far they had all come. The crisis we faced together taught us all a valuable lesson, he told them. His voice translated simultaneously into dozens of alien communication forms. No species, no matter how ancient or advanced, has a monopoly on wisdom. True strength comes from diversity, of perspective, of experience, of approach. He gestured to the memorial behind him, where names of those lost during the Void Reaper incursions and plague outbreaks were inscribed in multiple languages and communication formats. We paid a terrible price for this lesson. Let us honor those we lost by ensuring it never needs to be learned again. A young, crystalline being's form pulsed with curiosity as they asked through the translation system. Ambassador, were you angry when you withdrew human forces? Did you know what would happen? Reed considered the question carefully. I felt many emotions: frustration, disappointment, resolve, but primarily, I felt conviction that relationships must be built on mutual respect. As for knowing what would happen, he shook his head. We suspected the Council had grown more dependent on human assistance than they realized, but the severity of the crisis surprised even us. A gaseous youth swirled inquisitively. If you could change your actions, knowing what would happen, would you? No, Reed answered without hesitation. The path to our current partnership required that difficult choice. Sometimes, respect must be earned through standing firm, rather than bending to accommodate prejudice. He smiled at the assembled young beings. The galaxy is stronger when we stand as equals. Never forget that genuine partnership is built on humility and mutual trust. As Reed concluded his address, he noticed Admiral Kimura waiting at the edge of the amphitheater. Her normally stoic expression held unusual tension. What is it, Admiral? He asked, as they walked together toward the diplomatic shuttle. Long-range sensors have detected anomalous energy signatures beyond the galactic rim, Kimura reported quietly. Pattern analysis suggests they're unlike anything we've encountered before. Not Void Reapers, not known spacefaring species. Reed absorbed this information with the calm of a diplomat accustomed to crises. Have you informed the Alliance? Joint human-alien scout ships are being deployed as we speak, Kimura confirmed. President Rao has called an emergency session of the Defense Council. As their shuttle ascended through the crystalline world's atmosphere, Reed gazed out at the stars, countless pinpoints of light representing worlds that now look to humanity as equals rather than superiors. Whatever this new threat might be, they would face it together, with the combined strength of dozens of species, each contributing their unique capabilities. Perhaps that had been the universe's plan all along, forcing them to overcome their divisions before something greater arrived. If so, humanity had played its part in preparing the galaxy, not through dominance or submission, but through the simple, powerful act of demanding respect. The shuttle accelerated toward the waiting Alliance flagship, where representatives of a dozen species were already gathering to address this new mystery. Reed straightened his uniform, ready to continue the work of building a galaxy where all voices were heard, where unity arose not from conformity, but from celebrating their differences. The real test of the alliance was just beginning, and humanity would face it as they had faced every challenge since venturing into the stars, with ingenuity, courage, and unwavering conviction that every sentient being deserved to be treated with dignity, not as freaks, not as primitives, but as equals with unique gifts to contribute to the cosmic community. In the vastness of space, that simple truth shone brighter than any star.